El Segundo, California, featuring both a gas tank and a charge port. Plug-in hybrids split the difference between conventional hybrids and full EVs, offering buyers the green silence of pure electric driving without any range anxiety. The catch is that the all-electric range of these vehicles is limited. The 2017 Audi A3 Sportback e-tron is Ingolstadt's PHEV offering. It's also the only way to get yourself into a new A3 hatchback. While it offers 380 miles of total range thanks to an EPA rating of 33/37 mpg city/highway and 83 mpge, the 8.8 kWh battery only holds enough juice for 16 miles of all-electric range on a full charge. By comparison, the 238-mile Chevy Bolt EV uses a 60 kWh one. That juice is used by a 3-phase electric motor, which is located inside the 6-speed dual-clutch transmission. The motor makes for 102 HP and 243 lb-ft of torque, while the 1.4-liter Turbo 4 engine is good for 150 HP and 184 lb-ft of torque. The two combine for a peak output of 204 HP and 258 lb-ft of torque, which is sent to the front wheels and gets the 3,616 pounds A3 e-tron to 60 miles per hour in 7.6 seconds. Not quick, but considerably faster than two of its rivals, the Chevy Volt, which takes 8.4 seconds to get there, and the Toyota Prius Prime, which needs a whopping 11 seconds. There are 5 powertrain modes to choose from on the A3 e-tron: EV, Hybrid, Battery Hold, Charge Battery, and Sport mode. EV and Hybrid are self-explanatory. Battery Hold maintains a steady level of charge. Charge Battery pulls a little extra juice from the engine to charge the battery at highway speeds, and Sport throws pretenses of economy out the window and uses maximum power from both sources. The first 4 are selected via the MMI interface, while Sport is selected by moving the shifter into S. In addition, there are 4 driving settings to choose from: Comfort, Auto, Dynamic, and Individual. Unlike other plug-ins, the A3 e-tron's charging port is not located on the side of the car. Instead, it's located behind the Audi rings on the center of the grille. The car must be unlocked before the port can be opened by turning a dial on the second ring to the left. Give it a twist and the 4 rings will slide open. The bumper level placement makes it vulnerable to minor accidents that could cause it to get stuck, such as being backed into by an inattentive parallel parker. Fully charging the A3 plug-in electric hybrid requires 2 hours and 15 minutes with a 240-volt power source, or about 8 hours using a standard 120-volt outlet. Additional juice is provided by regenerative braking, which operates at maximum efficiency in dynamic mode, creating the sensation that the parking brake is engaged as soon as you let off the hybrid's accelerator. The pedal feels a bit springy, especially when the vehicle is at a standstill. Looks-wise, the 4-door hatch appears more humpback-shaped than sporty. From the side profile, the body looks a bit short for its 103.5-inch wheelbase. On the plus side, the 5-seater offers a good amount of storage space and cuts a decent enough profile from the front end. The Tango Red metallic model we tested even turned a few heads around town. The car is fun to drive and packed full of the latest tech. The infotainment system can be controlled via a knob or a touchpad, but you can also use voice commands. It uses Google Maps for navigating and includes support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay friendly, which is always a big plus. The Google Maps are so detailed that you can even zoom out into space to see the entire planet if you want. It's that good. In full electric mode the car is quiet and stealthy, but you can detect a bit of road noise coming from the undercarriage on rougher roads. Compared to other Audis, the ride feels more functional than sporty. Still, you can have a lot of fun with it, but it's no R8, TT or even A4. The panoramic sunroof and rear view camera are now standard, goes on sale March 2018. A heavily revised 1.6-liter diesel engine will join Honda Civic's European range starting March next year. Generating 120 horsepower, 89 kilowatts, and 221 pound-feet, 300 newton-meters, of torque, the motor provides a decent acceleration from a standstill to 62 miles per hour, 100 kilometers per hour, in 10.4 seconds. While the power numbers are almost identical to the previous 1.6-liter diesel engine of the brand, the new unit is far more efficient. Significant improvements have been made to the exhaust gas treatment system, while the cylinder friction has been reduced thanks to pistons made from highly durable chromium molybdenum steel alloy. The new 1.6-liter IDTEC engine is one of the first on the market to be officially tested under the new Worldwide Harmonized Light Vehicle Test Procedure, WLTP, fuel consumption and emissions cycle. It is developed using actual driving data and is designed to produce results closer to a real-world driving experience compared to the new European driving cycle, NEDC. Under the new WLTP cycle, the Honda Civic 1.6 diesel returns an impressive average fuel consumption of 63 miles per gallon, 3.7 liters per 100 kilometers, with corresponding CO2 emissions of 99 grams per kilometer. The new 1.6 IDTEC unit is also one of the first to be tested under the Real Driving Emission, RIDE, procedure that validates the NOx emissions. Honda explains the powertrain is equipped with a larger catalyst and a higher content of noble metals, silver, platinum, and neodymium, that store nitrogen oxide gas until the regeneration cycle. Later this year the new Civic will also become the first front-wheel drive model from the Japanese manufacturer to receive a 9-speed automatic gearbox in Europe. The transmission was introduced for the CR-V in 2015. All new Fiesta has more toys, more luxury, and, well, more of everything. The updated Ford Fiesta has launched abroad, and our colleagues at Motor1 UK have already had a first crack at the new compact hatch. We'll have a full U.S spec review in the near future. The Fiesta is an absolute staple part of the automotive diet in the UK. It has long been a bestseller year on year, often topping the sales charts. That makes designing an all-new version a challenging affair. With each new iteration of an iconic car like the Fiesta, you hope for a huge shift in design direction. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. This time, you don't. You'd have to be pretty dim to mistake it for the old car, but you don't get the impression that the design team stretched itself too much. Though, as the cliché goes, if it ain't broke. Just because it's similar to the old one, that doesn't mean it's not a looker. Pictures don't quite do it justice, the headlamps tend to look stuck on and a bit odd in 2D, and it gives an eggish impression in photos. In the metal there are plenty of interesting angles and creases to keep your eyes busy. ST-line cars get jazzier side skirts and a bigger spoiler than other models as well, something sure to excite buyers looking for some extra go. The interior is much improved over the old car. Where there were once many buttons and space taken up with a thick center stack, now there's an optional 8-inch screen, 6.5 as standard on most models. Only the base cars go without such wizardry, boasting Ford Sync 3 system, and a few buttons for the climate control. This means more space in the cabin, making it feel far bigger than it actually is. The screen works well enough, with its icons and such placed in easy view so as not to distract for too long. It's quick enough to react to a light prod, and even does the whole pinch to zoom thing you get on an iPhone. Sync isn't an ideal interface if you want a stress-free life, though. It can be frustrating and confusing if you're unfamiliar with it. Sometimes even when you are. Interior design, increasingly important in this end of the market, has been given a thorough working over. The materials are nicer to poke, touch points feel sturdy, and you get a greater sense of premium than you used to. The Fiesta is intended to attract a broad range of shoppers with 4 distinct flavors: normal, vanilla Fiesta, ST line, sporty, active, off-roadish, vinyl, luxurious. Each one offers a suitably different experience, though the vinyl cars can set you back over $27,000 in certain spec. $27,000 for a leather-clad Fiesta seems a bit much, no. On the upside, Ford has partnered with Bang & Olufsen Play to give owners an optional oral feast. It was fitted on our test car and it was rather wonderful. The Fiesta is not without fault, though. The steering wheel is huge. A minor gripe, sure, but it feels needlessly wide for such a small car. Also, in the 3-door car, getting into the back is difficult. While the seats do slide forward, they don't go far enough to get bulky items onto the back seat easily. While there is space for adult-sized humans back there, the rear window and side windows are small and don't let much light in. It can get awful claustrophobic. Ford has a strong reputation for making its small cars hilarious fun to drive yet accessible too. The ST line cars come with stiffer suspension to appeal to those who want a slice of boy racer in their lives. The good thing is it's not overly harsh or uncomfortable on nasty, rutted country roads, not unlike some of the U.K.'s back roads, yet it's stable and comfortable on the motorway, and offers more grip than you would possibly need if driven enthusiastically. Getting the steering right on a car like this is imperative, and mercifully Ford has managed to get the Fiesta set up bang on. It offers great feedback without being too heavy to use or over-assisted, as can be the case in some city cars. It's light for city work and pleasingly tactile out and about. The 1.0-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder EcoBoost engine is a perky little thing. Available with power outputs ranging from 99 HP all the way up to 136 HP, it's a remarkably impressive motor. It doesn't, according to official figures, drink too much fuel, yet offers decent in-gear power. No, it doesn't have the most torque in the world, but it never feels underpowered. Like we said, a remarkable motor. While a 0-62 mph time of 9.0 seconds can seem sluggish to some, it feels far more brisk than the numbers would lead you to believe. Overall, the new Fiesta feels like a more grown-up version of the old car, as if it's gone to finishing school to smooth over any rough edges. With prices starting from just shy of $17,000 and soaring to over $27,000, there's likely a sweet spot in the range for everyone. It drives better than the old car, feels better than the old car, and it's got way more toys on offer than the old car. The only reason you'd wait to buy it would be because a super quick, full-fat Fiesta ST is dropping next year. If you want a decent everyday hatchback in the meantime, the Ford Fiesta is likely going to do it for you. Bologna, Italy. The fantasy of driving a new Alfa Romeo sport sedan in Italy was simply too alluring. With trendy pedestrians, speeding scooters, and tiny three-wheeled delivery trucks coming at me from all sides, I recalled brushing off warnings from friends and colleagues who had fallen prey to similar flights of fancy. So it was on an impossibly narrow street in downtown Florence, lost and desperate in the snug red leather seat of a sharply dressed Giulia Veloce, that I faced the consequences of making a purely emotional decision. I'd already driven the raucous 505 HP Giulia Quadrifoglio in Michigan, so for my long-awaited Italian vacation, the 280 HP Giulia was at the top of the list. In the US this variant is known as the TI, but better to get to know an Alfa than to drive it on its home turf? Visions of devouring apexes on a mountain road filled my head, a stomachful of imaginary rigatoni bolognese and a bottomless bottle of Chianti waiting for me at my destination. Although my girlfriend, Michelle, had planned out nearly every detail of trip based on extensive research and sound reasoning, I, naturally, ignored her suggestion to just take the train. The trip kicked off without a hitch, after spending 3 days enjoying Rome and its mind-blowing history, red, pizza. Michelle and I picked up the Giulia outside of the city. At least I was wise enough to avoid the death trap of driving downtown, and had no trouble loading up the trunk with both of our suitcases and backpacks. For a car that looks this stunning, especially with the red leather sport interior and optional 19-inch black Quadrifoglio wheels, being able to also pack it full of cargo is a nice win. Compared to the Germans, or even Jaguar XE and Cadillac ATS, the Alfa is the clear aesthetic champion. From Rome, we quickly made our way onto the autostrada toward Florence, where the Giulia settled into a nice, calm cruise. The 2.0-liter turbocharged four-cylinder hums along comfortably at highway speed, while the 8-speed automatic transmission never misses a beat as it works its way up to top gear. I was impressed how well the Giulia tracks on the less than pristine autostrada, but I was especially pleased that the steering feel and precision I loved on the full-fledged Quadrifoglio is somewhat preserved, although scaled back for more casual drivers. There's a pleasant heft and quickness to every steering input, even during mild lane changes, that gives you confidence and control going down the road. At low speed the steering is light and easy, which was helpful while parking in a narrow underground garage during a pit stop in Siena. We finally arrived in Florence, exiting the highway and onto a main street flanking the Arno River that cuts through the city center. The moment we exited the main road and away from the riverfront, our planned route to the local garage went to hell. Construction blocked one of the larger streets, forcing us deeper into the city's narrow blocks, where reception for both Google Maps and the Giulia's onboard navigation suddenly went to zero. Before I knew it, we were dodging hundreds of people and assorted vehicles in a public square, trying to make sense of maddening traffic patterns and potentially one-way streets. Rightfully, Michelle was wearing a resigned "I told you so" face. For my part, I tried to manage the frustration of being so very wrong while ending this nightmare with haste. In the end, all it took was going the wrong way down a one-way street toward the garage, enough to get the attendant's immediate attention, at which point I leapt out of the car and thankfully handed him the keys. "Nice car," he said, not without a hint of judgment that such a lovely machine was wasted on a complete idiot. After a few days in Florence and day trip by train to go hiking at Cinque Terre, it was time to hop back in the Giulia and make for Bologna. This was the part of the drive I'd been dreaming about. We'd be taking the famed Fiesta Pass from Tuscany to Emilia-Romagna through the Apennine Mountains. It's one of the few routes you can drive that's essentially the same as it was during Stirling Moss's famed victory in the 1955 Mille Miglia. I was jonesing to check it off my bucket list. The countryside at the foot of the Fiesta Pass was simply stunning. Miles of lush green hills and beautiful lakes were visible in the distance, but I was keen to stay focused on keeping the Giulia in my lane. Although the four-door Alfa isn't at all large by American standards, on the snaking, narrow local roads and through the quaint little villages dotting the route, it occupied the entire lane and then some. It required a ton of focus to always look as far as possible ahead, and be prepared for anything from a cyclist or a delivery truck to be around any blind turn. Once on the pass, I could finally let the Giulia Veloce loose. I switched into dynamic mode on the rotary drive selector, firming up the adaptive dampers in preparation for a wild ride. The route began with a big climb, full of undulations in the road between a cadence of flowing corners in quick succession. Alfa tuned the Giulia's ride-handling balance perfectly for a road like this, as the car remained planted with beautiful body control. There's abundant mid-corner grip, and the athletic corner entry and graceful corner exit, aided by the mechanical limited slip differential, made it feel like a true sport sedan that can really put its power down. In the US market, both the adaptive dampers and the LSD come with the $1,200 Ti performance package. The brakes got a healthy workout on the way down the pass, and although there's plenty of stopping power, it could use more initial bite at the top of the pedal travel. Knifing through the ribbons of Italian pavement, too, gave me great respect for the small, well-proportioned steering wheel and perfectly bolstered sport seats. If the Giulia could be better dynamically in some way, I'd point to the engine as something in need of more refinement. Both BMW and Audi make much smoother 2.0 liters with more linear power delivery. Enjoyable as it was to work the huge aluminum shift paddles, I found myself needing to really pay attention to making sure I was keeping the engine in the meat of its mid-range power band. When I finally handed over the Giulia at a dealership outside of Bologna, the horror of driving in downtown Florence was the last thing on my mind. I was still riding that emotional state of high from the Fiesta pass. Although the Giulia isn't perfect, especially if you're a stickler for quality interiors or advanced tech, the fun it afforded me made it a lot easier to forget the consequences of sometimes thinking with your heart instead of your brain. Tearing through a sensational mountain road in a fantastically balanced sports sedan makes the world a bit brighter, after all. Midsize sedan is not dead, and Honda's brilliant new Accord will make you glad you're still breathing, too. Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. The idea that Americans aren't buying sedans anymore is, frankly, false. While even a cursory glance at the trend lines will tell you that SUVs and crossovers are still surging in popularity, it's unwise to go further and extrapolate that the midsize sedan is dead. Honda sold 345,225 Accords in the US 2016, still shy of the 388,618 Toyota Camry models buyers snapped up, which is to say, a whole hell of a lot of new cars. To say that getting the new, 10th generation Honda Accord right is critical, then, is a deep understatement. None of that is top of mind as I downshift from 4th to 3rd gear, swinging the Accord Sport 2.0 T. I'm driving just a little wide so I can nail the apex on a brilliant little New Hampshireite back road. A few degrees of steering and I'm staring right down the barrel of the corner. I flex my right foot and feel the torque roll on, while the forested roadside speeds up just a little, and I mentally cross my fingers that I'm still a little too far south to worry about moose. Tidy. Not many of the hundreds of thousands of upcoming 2018 Accord buyers will spec out this slick 6-speed manual and the top-end, turbocharged 2.0-liter engine, but my tossing it around the countryside does crystallize one of the core goodnesses about the car: versatility. From the humble 1.5 and continuously variable transmission-equipped car, all the way to the top touring trim with a 10-speed automatic and the Turbo D 2.0-liter, Accord has something good for all comers. Let's start with the common bits, and save the powertrain breakdown for later. You can scroll down now if you like, but I'll know you did. Honda stretched the Accord's wheelbase by more than 2 inches while shortening the overall length by 0.3 inches, and widening it by a ½ inch. The result is a car with more passenger room than the other top competitors in the segment, Camry, Altima, and Fusion, especially in the back seats. The Accord boasts 40.4 inches of legroom in the back chairs, over 2 inches more than any of the trio mentioned above, 4.3 inches up on Altima. And though I had plenty of room behind the steering wheel, it is only fair to mention that both Altima and Fusion have more room to stretch out up front. The clever Honda packaging also extends to the truck, where Accord 16.7 cubic feet also leads the top 5 midsizers. They say you eat first with your eyes, of course, and a new buyer is going to want to look at the Accord before they get in to see how roomy it is. Exterior design here isn't quite so bold or polarizing as found on the Civic. As you might expect, this is a car for a more mature customer, but the shape is far from vanilla. I prefer the dark chrome bar found on the front fascia of the sport-trimmed cars to the standard chrome finish on the touring model. And I really prefer the sports cleaner body side, which deletes a chrome strip running along the character line on the sill and side of the rear bumper. In profile view, not everyone is going to love the sloping rear roofline that reminds me the tiniest bit of an Audi A7, but it wouldn't be a Honda if every angle were universally loved, either. Inside I feel as though there will be less to debate. From bottom to the top of the trim sheets, the Accord cabin just oozes understated design and high-quality materials. Seats walk a tightrope between comfort and supportive bolstering, at least for someone my size, though I didn't hear any seating position complaints from my fellow reviewers. All of the trim pieces and surfaces found forward of the driver really seems as though they could fit in a Lexus, or Acura. Even the dash plastics and covers for the A-pillars feel a cut above for the segment. The new 8-inch display audio screen, standard on all trims save for the base LX, is familiar from the new Odyssey, and brings a better balance between new tech and classic controls than in previous Honda products. Traditionalists will be overjoyed to see physical knobs, with a pleasant clicking action while turning, I might add, for both volume and channel selection. The screen is flanked by a few buttons for high-use features, as well. Better still, the touchscreen has well-resolved graphics, a configurable tile-based layout, and is generally easy to use. Of course, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are both supported, as are wireless G charging and Bluetooth pairing via NFC technology. Tap your compatible smartphone to the small N mark on the dash, and you're hooked up. And nothing is easier to figure out than the operating system of the phone you use every day. Cool tech undoubtedly helps to sell new cars. But thankfully Honda, a company that has seemingly regained its once wayward driving joy mojo, has screwed together a fantastic driver's machine. I tested all 5 combinations of engine and transmission that Accord will offer, though I'll tell you upfront that the very early prototype version of the hybrid is the car I drove the least, and will wait for a follow-up to fully review it. Beyond that, Honda will sell Accord with 2 engines and 3 transmissions. The turbocharged 1.5-liter 4 can be had with a CVT or a 6-speed manual, while the 2.0T offers a 10-speed automatic, or the 6MT. The 1.5T makes 192 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque under the Accord's hood, enough to make the roughly 3,100 to 3,300 pound sedan feel lively when you'd like it to. This engine paired with the CVT transmission was far and away my least favorite flavor of the new Accord, thanks mostly to a droning sonic character, which goes away in the eco driving mode, but takes throttle response with it. Still, peak EPA fuel economy ratings of 38 highway and 30 city, and an LX starting price of just $23,570, should all make this the volume model. Even here I was heartened by the fact that actually using the steering wheel mounted paddle shifters made driving the CVT a lot more enjoyable. But when I moved into the Accord Sport with the 1.5T and a typically wonderful Honda 6-speed manual, the car came alive. On the dedicated handling route, some very tight country lanes climbing gently in the hills surrounding Jackson, New Hampshire, I was almost convinced that I didn't miss the added power from the larger engine. All of the engine torque was available at just 1,600 RPM, meaning quick starts and quicker corner exits were on tap. The 2.0T, on the other hand, is a straight-up tire chirper. Output of 252 HP might be down a bit from last year's V6, but the 273 lb-ft of torque, delivered seamlessly to the front wheels, makes up for the loss, and is the highest torque figure ever for Accord. Paired up to the 6MT, the car is kind of a sleeper, fast and agile. It's a struggle to think of a car that can match this experience without moving down a class, before spending loads more on a luxury sports sedan. In fact, give me an Accord Sport, with the very good fixed-rate suspension, the bigger engine, and the 6-speed gearbox. If you can get over the front drive factor, and you should, because the handling is excellent, that's about as practical a fun machine as you can buy for around 30 grand. At the top of the powertrain food chain is the 2.0T paired to the 10-speed automatic I first tried in the new Odyssey. Though it loses a little of the enthusiastic vigor when compared with the 6MT, this is still a slick setup. The 10-speed does a great job keeping me where I want to be in the rev range, especially in sport mode, and is responsive to paddle shift inputs as well. I didn't notice too much hunting around on hilly sections of road, either. At the very least the combination here is far more refined than what I found with the CVT, and appropriate for the top-end Accord. Balance between ride quality and handling ability is right on the money. As I mentioned above, the base suspension setup, McPherson struts in front, with a multi-link rear, and single-mode dampers, is really pretty good. Granted, the roads I was driving on were generally pretty good, but bumps and cracks in the paving were absorbed well, without any overt softness in the corners. Touring models come with adaptive, 2-mode dampers, normal and sport, which does offer a broader range between sharpness and smoothness. But I'm not convinced I'd spend the extra cash just for this small improvement. There's a pretty wide spread of cash between the bottom and the top of the 2018 Accord lineup, but as you'd expect, pricing is in lockstep with the segment-leading Camry. The LX base car, 1.5T and CVT, hits your wallet for $23,570, while the top trim Accord 2.0T Touring runs $35,800 before the $875 destination charge. Toyota wants a little less, $23,495, for its stripper Camry L, and is nearly a grand cheaper at the top end with the $34,950 XS EV6. As ever with popular new models, available stock and local pricing could easily tip the scales in one direction. It's hard to add relative fuel economy to the mix since Honda has only shared preliminary figures for the 1.5T cars, and not for the 2.0-liter or the hybrid, both of which go on sale after the base-engined cars. Most versions of the 1.5 with a CVT get 30 miles per gallon in the city, 38 on the highway, and 33 combined, but the Sport 6MT car goes for just 26 city, 35 highway, and 30 combined. Meanwhile the Sport and Touring trims with the CVT get 29/25/31. I'm torn on which version of Accord I'd actually slap down my dollars for. In both cases the trim is the second from bottom Sport, and the transmission would be that tremendous manual. I just don't know if I'd jump from $25,780 to $30,310 to get from the 1.5-liter to the 2.0. For enthusiasts, both are great choices. And for non-enthusiasts, the complete Accord range is a treasure trove of good things. The Gen 10 Accord is great, in part, because it would seem to work so well for so many people. From drivers who don't care about curves, just looking for a reliable, practical, fuel-efficient way to get to work, to those of us that look for any excuse to lengthen the commute with a shortcut, Accord has you covered. And if that stops a few people from buying an SUV or crossover, well, win-win.